Okay, well, we like to be prompt around here, so I think we're going to get started. I hope everybody's staying warm, if possible. Um, Hello from the Board of Directors and staff. We welcome our volunteers, members, and guests here to the Cape Cod Museum of Art, and also live from around the country and world on Zoom for the gallery talk and reception of this international juried exhibition titled Visual Voice: Freedom to Create. I am Benton Jones. I'm the director of art here with the juror, architect, exhibition designer, and curator, David Henry Perry. I would like to thank the Arthur McMurtry Fund for their support of this exhibition and thank the staff who make this extraordinary visual magic possible. Also, thanks go to the volunteer hanging crew, Steve Petruska and Gary Orgonsky. If you like what you see here today, please consider becoming a museum member or making a donation, and making a donation. It will reward you back in so many ways, including knowing you helped make all of this possible. On a day where nationwide organizers are asking Americans to take part in an economic blackout, calling for a nationwide day of no school, no work, and no shopping to protest the recent ICE shootings and immigration enforcement, with dozens of rallies and marches planned across this country, it's fitting to celebrate and likewise exercise our freedoms through this exhibition. The act of creating has an unlimited array of possible motivations, and subsequently, artworks can affect society in every manner of ways. Creating can be cathartic, revealing pent-up emotions and feelings, or provide a way to be expressive in a visual medium for one's personal self-discovery, self-awareness, well-being, and health. Art can serve as a narrative. It can be biographical, autobiographical, a historical record. A good majority of people view a successful artwork as being aesthetically pleasing, comforting, and relatable, and that the practice of art creation is a passive, subdued, meditative, and solitary exercise. It can be, but it can also be much more, as you see in this dynamic exhibition. Art production can have purposeful and intentional outcomes beyond eye candy. It can be used to portray, to persuade, to convince, to shock. Art is the most powerful of influencers, whether we realize its capacity to move us at our core or if it changes us subconsciously. Visual art speaks a universal language. As living beings, we are compelled to interpret what we see. In the process, we become anew. Artists everywhere were invited to make their mark in this Cape Cod Museum of Art's 2026 International Juried Exhibition, Visual Voice: Freedom to Create. 318 artists from 34 states in the USA, the District of Columbia, Germany, Canada, Mexico, Spain, France, Italy, Malaysia, and Kuwait submitted 551 artworks for this exhibition. Only 74 were selected. This exhibition celebrates the limitless power of artistic expression, the courage to speak through images, to challenge norms, to share what words cannot. From works bold to outspoken, to quiet and contemplative, a collective visual voice exercising our creative freedom. So with that, I'd like to see if maybe David would like to add a few words.
Pretty thorough talk there. Really, 554. Yeah, no wonder I was exhausted and overwhelmed and grateful to look at so many beautiful things, so many challenging things, as Benton said. Art should challenge people. It should express things that we perhaps ourselves are afraid to say. That's what I was looking for, something that pushed limits to the materials you're working with. But one of the biggest things that struck me is the second phrase in the logo, freedom to create. Are we in a country that allows us freedom of expression? Are we in a family situation that gives me the time to work on my art? Do I have a studio where I can do it? You know, the freedom to do what artists are meant to do. And I hope that whittling down from all of those submissions that we're all doing those things, we've found a mix that all of you can relate to. So thank you. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege to be part of this.
Artists who are able to attend tonight will have the opportunity to say a few words about their artwork and their process. We ask that you keep your statements to a minute. Please first state your name and where you live. It's probably better that you do it than I. There are also wall texts and statements for every artist, so you can go back and revisit your favorites and read them in person. As we make our way around the room, I invite David Perry to chime in at will, and we will also be announcing 3 award winners that he selected. So let's begin. So I think we're going to start with the room right behind us. And why don't we start right here with Elizabeth Perry, and we're going to take them off the wall if we can and hold them. And I did see Liz Perry here. Liz is also in the other exhibition, or she juried the other exhibition.
Oh, thank you. This is a collagraph print. It's a combination dry point etching collagraph. And I did a series this summer of these prints. I did about 6 prints in the series, and they're really based on the forces of nature. But this one, it has some symbolic little cross with a halo around it, and it became sort of mystical as I finished it. It had this sort of mystical sense to it, like it had its own language and movement and motion. So I named it The Language of Mystics.
Great, thank you, Liz. That's all right. Okay, get it. You know, for this room, I'll probably try to say everybody's name because I know some people are not going to be here. I know this artist lives in Canada, so I don't believe Maria Coletis. So anyway, I'll continue around the room and we'll allow the people who are here time to speak. Is Sherry Sherwood here? Okay, here, you take the mic and we'll get out.
Hi, I'm Sherry Sherwood from Annapolis and part-time Brewster. And this, I work with several organizations kind of helping rescue marine things off the beach. And this is a culmination of years of searching for these sea animals, and there's not a lot else to do. So we picked up trash. And once half my basement was full of this trash, I said, oh, I should probably make something out of that. So I said, oh, I'm going to make it a rainbow because that's kind of, you know, God's promise to the earth and all that. And it's my promise to the earth that every time I go somewhere, I'm going to pick up the trash, and I hope this inspires people to do the same thing. So let's.
Sherry, what's one word that would describe your voice?
Well,
Just one.
it's a plea.
A
It's a plea and a cry for, you know, people to just take notice of all the things that end up where they're not supposed to be. And, you know, it kills, you know, marine mammals, kills sea turtles. This trash does a lot of damage. So.
And I heard on the news today that previously it was illegal to take fishing gear off the beach because the fishermen might have ownership of the gear. But just this week, they made it legal and actually encourage people to do so.
You can actually drag stuff, up to a parking lot or something like that and leave it because you definitely don't want ropes and that type of thing floating around, just entrapping things. Anyway.
Thank you for multitasking.
From Arizona.
Okay. Lynn Lee, she's from Arizona. Just speak up if you're here. Christine Moron from Duxbury, Mass. Did you make it? How about Maxine Raymond? She's a local. Is she here? Okay, staying in. Okay, Patty Ormsby. This one's going to be tricky. Should I try to unhook it? Right. I don't think we can move this piece, so you might have to look at it on the screen. It's a mobile, and here's Patty.
Hi, I'm Patty Ormsby. I live in Virginia and grew up on the Cape in Wellfleet Summers.
Stand near your piece.
Near my piece. Okay. So my piece is called The Martyrdom of Migratory, oh my God, what did I call it? The Martyrdom of Migratory Birds. And it is part of a series of story fish, What the Fish Said. And it's a combination of hammered wire, glass, and brass, and found objects, semi-precious stones, bones, resin bones. My early background is in metalwork and jewelry, so this work is different from my 2D work, which is painting, generally mixed media. And so I'm really happy to be showing my 3D fish. And as far as what my voice is, I would say it's more about not what I say, but what you see. So that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Patty. I know Jenny Prescott isn't here, but I think her mother might be. How about Nancy Jenner? Okay, great. So yes, just say your name again and where you're from.
Nancy, and I'm from, my studio's in Jamaica Plain, and we also have a house in Wellfleet. So I'm a back and forther. And during the pandemic, started spending much more time on the Outer Cape.
Remember to hold it. Thanks.
And and started really walking along the shores and really falling in love with the landscape, and started to wonder if I could paint that. I've been an artist my whole career, but I did a lot of conceptual projects, and then I started painting these landscapes, and I've been doing them for about the last 6 years since the pandemic. And because my studio is in Jamaica Plain, and the place where I love to hang out is in Wellfleet, I spend a lot of time on Route 6. And this little painting is a little more unusual for those of you that know my work, but it's true to who I am. And I look for inspiration in the everyday as well as the extraordinary. And this just really struck me this day. It was really beautiful. It was very green and misty. And it's called Driving Route 6 in the Rain.
The medium?
Oil on panel.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. So this one will be, he's here. I think I saw John Clark out there. I'll give you the mic and we'll get your artwork. How's that?
Pick it off. My name is John. I live out in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, and this piece and about 12 others was the result of a year contemplating the sound of the Mass Pike and how I could visualize that using long exposure photography. And the result here was not only long exposure photography, but inversion. And so what that allowed was what was reading as headlights and lights, which everybody recognizes, got flipped. When you do an inversion, you get lights to darks and a flip of the color wheel. And so everything that was light became now solid line and read more like what I like to call an EKG report of the highway. And so this was done for Turn Park Art Space out in West Stockbridge. The Mass Pike runs right behind it. You can't see the cars, but when you're at the park, you hear the shh, shh, shh of the pass, and that just hypnotized me for a year. And like I said, this was one of my favorite results. Great, of course. Thank you.
Oh, well, this is actually a piece that captivated me from the get-go. I think the innovation is what really captured my imagination, and I congratulate you.
Well, the innovation was a number of happy accidents over the year, and that last one of the inversion, because I was inverting something else for another project, and I had one of these images open, all of a sudden the lights became darks, and it was reading finally like sound waves. Everything I looked up with sound waves, those lines, I wasn't getting until I flipped it, and I was like, this is it. So thank you.
I'll break the news. You are a recipient of a second prize from is Lou Schwartz here? Lou, are you here? Oh, great. Okay, here we come. It's the top one.
All right, face your public.
The public. So what am I? So this is like what photographers do on a rainy day. I decide on certain limitations, like I'm not going to hold the camera up to my eyes. It's actually under a raincoat here. I had the fabulous Kings Highway in Brooklyn, which the kind of style of signage was large letters, solid colors, and I was walking along. So I had all of these possibilities. And you accept those and you get a serendipitous result. So if you want one word, it's serendipity, and the old press for photographers adage, be there. So that's it. Get wet, get your camera.
Great. And be careful because he might have his camera underneath his jacket. How about Kara Greenwell? Is she here? James Varnum. Denise Lindquist. Maureen Callahan. She is here.
Thank you, Ben. So this painting, Embracing the Mystery,
You could hold that. Thanks.
Embracing the Mystery, was created during a period of my life that was very joyful, and a celebratory painting I did at the time turned unexpectedly dark, the painting and the experience. My relationship with the painting changed as I covered it up with collage and paint, because the energy was gone for me. Over time, I scraped away bits and pieces of what was there and ended up with something that the surface that was intriguing to me, and I started to paint that surface, which was very rough. And whatever came out, I felt like I embraced it, and I knew that finally this was the painting that I was meant to make. So.
That's great.
And a well-chosen outfit to go with the painting. Mark Kennedy. A lot of these folks are far afield, so I can understand why they might not be here, and I want to say hello to them if they're watching from home. Sandra Giebert from Santa Fe, New Mexico. No chance? Okay.
Mexico looking.
Right. Roberta Mascarelli from Addison, Texas. No? Okay, we made it out of the dark corner here. And how about, well, let's do the Margot stage. That's this, this interesting mobile.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Margot, and this is Persephone, goddess of spring. And she is part of, hi, Maddie. I was hoping I'd see you. She is part of my ongoing series of sculpture with found metal called Metal Mania. Some of my sculptures hang, some of them stand on pedestals, some of them hang on the wall. And Persephone was conceived, so to speak, when a friend of mine was getting rid of an old futon, and she had this long, squiggly spring. And I was like, I'll take that. She said, good, it's yours. I'm junking all this. And then the next set of springs came out of a upholstered chair that had been my mom's. And the springs were revealed as my husband was dismantling the chair to get to the wood. And the third set of springs were given to me by another good friend, and they're screen door springs, but they were so rusted that they were almost solid. So in the process of just putting all this together, I saw Persephone. I saw a figure in the form that was taking place, and there she is. And my word is playful.
And on any given day, you might see Margot picking rusty things up off the side of the road too. So look out for her.
And hopefully this will encourage spring to come.
Yeah.
Donna Garcia. John. Okay. Oh, it is you. Oh, great. Okay, so you're from Georgia.
Actually, hey. I actually, when I made this work, I was living in Georgia, but I now live in Plymouth. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this piece, and I'm going to stick to my notes, so I stick to my 1 minute. This piece is called Muskogee. It's from my series Indian Land for Sale. And Indian Land for Sale began as a way to sit with absence. In 1830, the Indian Removal Act was put in place that forcibly removed indigenous people east of the Mississippi to what is now modern-day Oklahoma. At the same time, the land that they were being removed from was advertised, auctioned, and sold to white farmers under Indian Land for Sale. That phrase, Indian land for sale, carries both banality and violence. It's transactional, it's ordinary, yet it names the actual act of the erasure. This work doesn't try to reconstruct history in a documentarian way. Instead, it moves into that space between the past and the present, where memory, loss, survival, and resilience are allowed to coexist. I work with ambiguity, motion, unstable light, and other techniques to allow the image to remain unsolved and unresolved. The photograph is not fixed. It is not in a fixed frame, which is typical of photography. It resists closure. Much of the history when I went to research this series did not exist. There were no archives of Indigenous people around Atlanta, Georgia. That absence obviously is not accidental. These images and this image attempts to stand where those records don't exist, to let something felt rather than something explained come forward. I hope this image asks you not to look for certainty, but to stay with what lingers and recognize what was never truly gone. I also want to say that this piece 2 years ago, right around this time, was exhibited in the largest exhibit of Indigenous artists' work in Minneapolis, and it is part of the permanent collection at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. And I just want to say that my thoughts are with Minneapolis and Minnesota today, especially the Indigenous people there. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Is John Dephouse here? He's from Lansing, Michigan. How about Nelson Marlowe? Okay, great. Please come forward. New Bedford, Mass. It's titled Interlude.
Okay. This work here deals with the interaction of two disparate elements that come together. And for me, my voice, or as the way I think of one's voice, it's those brief utterances that occur between the combining of these elements. In my own other artwork, as well as this, I like to use fractured, fragmented figural forms, along with a lot of gestural abstraction and aggressive mark making. The use of color starts to come into play and then starts to fall off. So I'm always at that point of trying to figure out what is emergence and what is a gradual decline into a sort of nothingness. If one wants to think more in terms of physics, I like to think of things that are happening here as that cosmic chatter. Hope that's not too new age. But also, when I challenge representational form, it's usually in a sense of what is recognizable and what is abstract. And the same thing with the written text. A lot of times it's things that just come to mind. For me, the idea of being in the moment, I like to embrace not so much being in the moment in some Zen-like fashion, but for embracing and exploring those intrusive thoughts and allowing them to come through so that even the mark making, or at least the written text, can either stay and hold up boldly, or it can start to gradually dissolve into that nothingness. So that's it for me. That was a minute.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Beautiful work. Is Elizabeth Slater here? Great. Here you go.
Hi, my name is Elspeth Slater. And first I will say that I make monotypes, which are a unique print that can't be redone. This is my piece here. It's actually a monotype on top of a monotype. So I want to say first that my work is about managing memory, looking at how we manage memory, what shines forth, what's blocked, what recedes, and how that all takes place with objects. I'm especially interested in rural areas and the objects we see in rural areas in this era of urbanization. And last year, I spent some time at a residency with the Peaked Hill Trust out in the province lands of the Outer Cape. And I was very interested in the forms that I saw in the tumbleweeds of dune grass roots. that I used in my printmaking. I use silicone plates, which are a transportable printmaking mechanism. And so the shapes you see here are made with the dune grasses. This is called red dune grass dance. And I will just say that I'm interested in what the dunes can remember. I'm interested in what the roots can remember. And I was fascinated by the different colors that I saw at different times of day that you don't think of when you think of dune colors. And my word is reflection.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Is Lori Lapointe here? Excellent.
Great, Howard.
Okay, good. Hi, I'm Lori Lapointe. I live year-round in Wellfleet. This is my oil painting, and this is an abstract landscape. Sure. This is a marshtscape that what I try to do is stay in that right brain. So you don't overthink and get too precious with the actual visual landscape itself. And what I was experimenting with here is just like a dark, moody Cape Cod day that we're all familiar with, where it might have been a gray day all day long, but just as we're getting to dusk and the day is descending and Mother Nature kind of says, wait a minute, I've got one last little surprise, and we'll just shoot out a blast of bright light, whether it's, we see it every day, whether it's a hot pink or an orange or just a bright yellow. So I just wanted to kind of capture that in an abstract way. All right. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Joy George, here. Great.
Hi. Hello, there's so many people. I'm Joy George. I live right in Harwich, Mass, and I like to do figurative work. This piece is called Lady in Red. It is painted, really more drawn with high flow acrylics directly on raw unprimed canvas. And what I wanted to do with this is let the figure emerge from more instinctive marks and use the uneven pigment absorption to kind of allow more chance and intention to coexist, exploring the figure's presence through gesture and immediacy rather than use definition and detail. And I do have a word, since I spoke with you earlier, and you'll understand it because we had a little private conversation, but my word will seem a little odd perhaps because it's 70s. And I say this because I went to art school in the 70s, but I never became the artist I thought I would. So I am in my 70s now, and this is giving me the freedom to create. Thank you.
Danielle Breslin, I think you are here. Great. Here you go.
I'm Daniel Breslin. I live and have my studio in Salem. This is my piece. I'd been doing a lot of abstracted figure drawings on store-bought paper as studies for paintings I was planning. And we got a delivery of spices, and I was unwrapping all the jars, and I was laying out the paper, thinking I was going to recycle it. And I ended up with this stack of newsprint that flashed me back to figure drawing classes. And I thought, well, why not? And so this is done on, that piece of paper was wrapped around a bottle of spice from Penzeys. And it's colored charcoal. There's 16 in the series right now. And two things that really came out of this for me that were really interesting in terms of the working process. But one was that because it was just this paper that I was pulling out of boxes, it wasn't precious. So there was real freedom in drawing, because if I didn't like it, I recycled it. The other thing was that it's something I really wasn't used to at all, is the fact that depending on how the paper was treated, was it rolled, was it crunched, was it torn, influenced the marks. So drawing is making marks, but in this case, the paper was saying, no, not that, we're gonna do this now, especially if I was using the charcoal on the flat side. There are 16 in the series right now. The other thing, I purposely mounted it this way. So if I got one I liked, I made a frame, mounted it on board. I didn't want a mat, I didn't want glass, I didn't want a frame, because you'd lose what it has. And this, oh, it's called reuse number 1. As I said, there's 16 in this series right now.
Thank you very much. Is Diane Messenger here?
Thank you. Ooh, as most of my friends know, I don't like to talk about my work, and especially to a crowd like this, so large. So in my career, my whole life as an artist, I've been doing the figures for at least 30 years. I love the figure, and I feel very free with the figure. I can do whatever I want. I don't know what I wrote down that I was going to say, but one thing that's been a constant in my work for always is that something emotional comes out. And I feel very lucky that it's unintentional and that it just happens. And I'm really, that is expressed, that I can express myself without pushing myself. And so this is acrylic on paper, and the whole intent of a piece is to make it work. So I paint things out, I put things in, I add a hand, I take a hand out, I wipe out a face, I put another face in. And my whole intent is to make the piece work. I work very classically. You know, is it balanced? Is the line too big? Is it too thin? And I don't have a word for you. So, sorry.
Diane also works on enormous scales of this very same expression, and that's a pretty freeing freedom kind of thing from the logo as well.
I also think there's a lot of mystery in here and narrative that I had a great time trying to figure out, like a hand around her arm, but there's no person attached to the hand. So there's a lot of, right. Okay. So do we have Kenneth Windsor here from Washington State? Tom Crawford, Brooklyn, New York? Jane?
These two pieces were really part of trying to find artists that express themselves through new media. So this is like just beautiful examples of that. Computer art, but not losing the essence of artistic expression.
Jane Lincoln, here you are.
All the way from Falmouth. I'm impressed with how many works are from far away. So my drive, even though slow, was quite easy. I concentrate on color in all my work. This is mine. And I like to think I'm in control of color and that I can manipulate it. But the more I paint, I realize I need to listen to the color, and I need to listen to how it interacts with the other colors in the composition and let it guide me. I use alliteration in my titles. So this one is called Resilient Rose. My titles describe the action of the subject color. So rose being the color, resilient is true to its definition, able to withstand difficult conditions. It is vibrant and carries across the middle and vibrates around the edges, although it is the smallest amount of color in the composition. I let my art, specifically color, be my voice during these incredibly difficult political and social times. Thank you to David Perry and the Cape Cod Museum of Art for this opportunity to share my voice.
Thank you, Jane. Sarah Lamphere, Wilmington, North Carolina. Why don't we have Barbara Ford Doyle? She's here. It's this middle piece here.
I'm Barbara,
And this is the Chicago Manual of Style. And I used to use it for reference for writing and grammar. Now I rip out all the pages. And so the dust cover is red. So this piece has torn pieces of the text, gelatin plate prints, and resin coated.
Thank you, Barbara. How about Sue? Here, you say it.
Sue Zaffarana. Do I have to like? This is my painting. It's called Rain Crowd. And I grew up in New England, and I also come to the Cape part-time as well. And like the other woman, I'm not used to talking about my paintings. I'm just used to people looking at them. So in New England, we get crazy weather. So some days it's 90 degrees, some days it's like 50 degrees the next day. But we also get a lot of rain now. And when I was a kid, rain always made me kind of depressed and everything was gray and it just brought me down. But after living here for so long, I've tried to embrace the rain and I've managed to get a sort of appreciation of it and a respect for it. Because now that I'm retired, my husband and I, we spend a lot of time on the road going to doctor's appointments, and we get caught in the rain a lot. So I used to take pictures through the windshield, so I've done a lot of those kinds of paintings too, with the rain, the shapes of the dots. It's really wonderful feeling when you like to appreciate it. So that's what I like to do. I want to share a moment where the rain is something we could enjoy. It's peaceful, it's refreshing, and that's it.
Thank you, Susan. How about Mary Walsh? She's from Falmouth. Okay, we'll move on. I saw Susan Overstreet here. Great. Hi. Also dressed to go with your painting.
Well, if any of you know me, some of you do, I don't mind talking about my paintings. This one came out of a lot of angst, as we're all feeling. And my former life as a teacher in politics and democracy, I feel extremely horrified by what's happening. But I'm lucky, thank you for including me in the show, to be able to express myself. And I have a lot of very dark paintings in the basement that won't see the light of day, but I was really happy that this was chosen. It was really one of those paintings where I can't really take full credit. All those voices in my head left the room, and then I left the room, and I came back and I was pleased. So I'm not sure what it means. I called it soul migration because humanity is moving in so many directions. We don't know where we're going to end up. And hopefully it's a good place, but for a lot of people, it won't be already. So sorry.
You can't necessarily see from just the pictures. You've got to get up close, but the figures are created by what's around them, so you can see the depth of paint that outlines the figures, and the figures are completely flat on the canvas. So that's also echoes your sentiment. Hugo Rizzoli. There he is.
These are Cape jelly houses, not jelly prints, okay? These are jelly houses that in the 30s and 40s dotted roadsides all along the Cape. And they were actually started by a guy in West Barnstable who started a company called Cape Cod Jellies and had built some of these shacks and got the whole movement started. It was very entrepreneurial at the time. I don't know how long they lasted, a decade, if that. There's one remaining shack that I found in Osterville. And I just was very intensely taken by it and other shacks of that nature. So I thought about it for a long time and began to represent it. And since my work is essentially collage, I started pawing through many piles of fabrics and found papers and things like that to not only for color, but for flavor, because this was a food-oriented adventure. I wanted things that that spoke of materiality, but also of color and flavor. And this is what has come about. So I would say that for me, materiality and materials are my basic instinct. Thanks.
Thank you, Hugo. John Koch. He's not here. Okay, he was here yesterday. Oh, he's headed to Florida. Teresa Carer. Okay, she's from Delaware, so that's understandable. Roxy Rubel. Great. Hi, Roxy.
Hi, I'm Roxy Rubel. I am a New Hampshire-based self-taught painter. My main focus is abstract acrylics and some pastel. So I'm an intuitive painter, so I never know what's going to happen when I get to the canvas. And the day I painted this, Roe v. Wade got overturned. So I had to channel my anger somewhere. So this is what happened. And for me, this is the anchor and this is the chaos. And we all need to hold on to our integrity in these times. So I called it holding your own. Yeah, I guess that's it.
It's beautiful composition. How about Denise Dunlap? Great.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm from Orleans. This is called Rustling Leaves. I am also a abstract intuitive artist, and I do take a great deal of inspiration from living here on the Cape and the beautiful colors that we see. And I try to walk every day, whether that's in the woods or along the shoreline. But I confess that I am often have podcasts in my ear or music, and I think that I'm taking in all the beauty around me. And just as I was beginning this painting, I was out on a walk and my earbuds had conked out. And so I had no opportunity to listen, but to really listen to what was going on around me and to really look. And for me, it really transformed my taking in the beauty and taking in the color and the exploration of what was around me and what I was kind of kicking around me. This was in the fall, the opportunity to really see what was underneath the leaves and on the ground and all around me. And I just really translated into my painting. And so it really has encouraged me to leave the political podcast behind and to really just listen and look. And it really is an opportunity to see the beauty that we have here and the color that we have here. So I'm hoping that also for the viewer, that it gives people the opportunity to want to get closer and look at the details as it did for me on my walk.
Now, tell me a little bit about the upper left-hand corner.
Well,
So the upper left-hand corner was kind of things that I found as I was kicking through the path. There were stones, and that really was. A lot of this is, things that I saw that I didn't initially see, and because I was paying attention to my steps and what was on the ground, and I never really did that before.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is Stephanie Roberta Camello here? This is an encaustic work of high relief, and it's got an amazing spectrum of colors and textures and writing, as if the encaustic is unveiling the writing below. And I think maybe
Yes, this is also one of the award winners because for me, the really pushing the medium and showing a freedom that you might overlook if you're doing a watercolor or oil painting or anything else, a sculpture. And I love the combination of the flat and the 3-dimension, and I think it's an amazing piece.
In the Blink of an Eye, it's titled. Okay. Nancy Adela Oakley, also from Canada. Gail Gilbert, or Gilbert. Okay. Gail is going to give a talk here, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. She does a lot of art that uses her voice to express social issues. And this is a piece that involves encaustic and printing on a membrane and then attaching it to a piece of a tree and then also layering in the personified image of the two humans. So there's a lot to take in. Okay, we'll continue. Sasha Appleton. How about Catherine Smith? We chose this piece for on our website as it seemed to speak very well to the theme, visual voice. These are all words. It's called banned words. And so these are all different words that the government chooses not to use very purposefully. Okay, continuing on. Elspeth Slater again. She's here, right? Oh, here she comes.
Since I already went once, what I'll say is that the piece that I showed you on this side was the last piece I made in my Dune Grassroots series. And this actually is the first that I made sitting out. So that was made in my studio. This was made in the Ray Wells Dune Shack in Truro, Massachusetts on a very cold night right before a nor'easter, where I was struck by all the greens that I saw that you think you're going to see grays and blues and things like that. And these were just two dune grass root tumbleweeds that were standing together, and it's called Stand Together. Thank you.
Judy Lou Luce from California, Folsom, California. Maureen Callahan, there you are.
Again. Also, I consider myself an intuitive artist, and my paintings are expressions of my inner feelings and emotions. This painting, Beneath the Veil, was really part of an experiment with transparent paints and seeing how they reacted to the marks and the shapes and the colors that were underneath. But as it evolved, I really felt, and as it developed, it was really a visual meditation for myself about the freedom found when We let go and shed the restraints that really keep our inner voices from ourselves and from others. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Laura Shabbat, there you are.
I just want to acknowledge that I just had the experience of a lifetime having a solo show here. You only get one body, and it's so great to be back again. Thank you. It was an amazing life experience with an amazing community and museum. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this show as well. This is titled Tool Belt, but it really should be Toolkit. And what I meant by that is, what are my tools? They're going to be different than a guy who does construction, right? But I have a set of tools too, and that's my hands. And I put in bra straps because that also is a tool. I also use a lot of canvas. I use a lot of thread. And I just really enjoy the freedom of experimenting with materials. And if I were to pick one word, freedom. You know, making art now is a revolutionary act. And it's what we do. And let's just do more of it.
Richard Neal. I think if you stood on this side, you might get less feedback.
My name is Richard Neal. I'm from Centerville. And I was thinking about Bob Henry, who was just here a few weeks ago, talking right in here. And one of the questions that was asked of him is, how do you know when your painting is done? Which is, and what he said was, when the artist is dead. And I basically agree with that. There is maybe one difference. One other stipulation would be that if you sell it, you probably shouldn't change it, or the owner probably won't let you change it. But I basically believe the same thing, that if it's yours, you have the right to, and maybe the need to change it if it's not good or it's displeased you in some way. So this was another painting before. It was always in two parts, but this was the bottom and that was the top. And when I thought about what to do with it, I turned it and more to a sort of typical diptych sort of situation. And I didn't really have a plan in mind. Sometimes I start with a plan and it goes crazy or goes wild. This one, I really didn't have much of a plan. I just started painting. And at some point, I realized there was kind of a house shape there that I wanted to work with. So I followed that idea. And at some point, I realized it was very symmetrical in some way. And the idea of asymmetrical symmetry sort of came to my head. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, but and then at some point, the hangers that I had it on were sort of like giving way a bit. So this sort of thing started by happenstance, and I realized like I really kind of like it off. And I realized it was really a house that's coming apart. And so I wanted to hang it this way. Thank you, Benton, for hanging it exactly as I had it in my studio. And there it is. I asked Jean what my word should be, and she said, resist. It's a good one.
Thanks. Thank you. Richard will also be giving a talk on his bodies of work that speak to societal issues, problems, and different aspects of society. Why don't we just finish this wall here? John Calabrese from Denton, Texas. Toussaint Rosefort And she is from New York, New York, or he. Okay, let's do some sculptures. Heather Ramp from Falmouth. Great.
Maybe I'll come over this way. Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Caldwell Ramp. I hail from way down the road in Falmouth, Massachusetts. I'm predominantly a hand builder, predominantly non-functional, and this is my picture. I do think of her as a female. I think if she had a voice, she would speak of something familiar. We've all seen a picture before. Something ancient. They've been around for 1,000,000 years. Something useful. Typically, they are useful. They hold water or whatever, flowers in some cases. And there's something common. We have these in our homes, probably a couple sitting in our kitchen right now. But I think she is the exact opposite of all of those things that I just mentioned. And opposite and contrast are some of the themes that I put into my pottery a lot. It creates a lot of interest for me. This piece is a perfect example of that. I think at times she looks old. She was made in 2024. I think at times she looks broken because of the bits, but she's whole. I think she is also full-bodied, yet she's slender. And while decorating, I used white slip to cover the dark clay. That didn't quite get me where I wanted to be, so then I etched the lines in it to add more contrast. It was still a bit flat. So I found some bits on my table from other projects, and I applied them to the surface. And suddenly her 2D surface became 3D, and voila, she was born. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Michael Wright.
My name is Mike Wright, and I'm from Provincetown. And a couple things happen with my voice, and that is one, that I only use wood that I find that has paint on it. And usually it's only from Provincetown. So that means a lot of dumpster diving these days. I'm using old found wood with paint on it because there is literally a voice in that, because those pieces were probably lived with in some form, a floorboard, a chunk of a boat, or a cabinet. And if you open a cabinet door 100 times, you have to be leaving some energy in there. So there's this vibration, this energy that comes with old wood that has had a life as something else. The other thing I do is I love the old modernist painters, especially because their voice, I feel like I bring forward. And in this particular piece, a friend had given me a book on Juan Gris, and I was flipping through it, and this image hit me immediately, and I actually printed out the image so you can see where my references are. And so I needed some parts that would match up color-wise, but I also needed a chair. And once in a while in a dumpster, I'll find a chair. And so I would find one, bring it back to the studio, and it would be too ornate. Then I'd pitch it back into that dumpster, go down the road, and a few days later find another chair, and it was too swirly. I ended up just driving, which I do every day anyway, around Provincetown, and I happened to turn and look down an alley near some buildings on Commercial Street, and there were 4 chairs all broken up into bits. So I basically thought, this looks like the simplistic chair I'm looking for and wishing for. So I picked up all the bits, brought it back to the studio, and reconfigured the chair so that it kind of matches up with Juan Gris's piece. So that's basically my process and my voice.
Excellent, Mike. Mike also has an artwork, a sculpture in the other exhibition, so she's doubly represented here today. How about Jerry Stahl? Oh, there you are. Great.
Hi, so I'm Jerry Stahl, and I'm from Chatham. And in the middle of Chatham, probably the most famous building for many people is the Mayo House. One of the leaders of Chatham historically was the Mayo family. Mr. Mayo was the postman for practically his whole life and led the town in various capacities. So I'm sure he had a voice, a strong voice in Chatham. But he was married to a woman who gave him some children and lived in the Mayo house and possibly planted a plum tree in the front yard 100 years ago, if plum trees live that long. And then recently, about 5 years ago, the people who run the Mayo house now, the local land trust, decided to cut down her plum tree, her pear tree, excuse me, pear tree. And this is what's left of it. So her name was Desiree Mayo. I tried to do a Google search of Desiree and found nothing. She had no voice at all. So I call this sculpture, Mrs. Desiree Mayo Finally Opens Her Mouth. And here it is, quite open. After 100 years, I helped release her voice. And my approach to wood sculpture generally is to release what's inside of it so it can speak to people. I love the texture, the color, the grain, and then the forms that emerge as I work on it. And so I try to open up the solid log into something that has sculptural form to it, three-dimensional positive form and negative forms that work together to let each other speak. So you can see here the outside, there's still some remains of the bark from the outside, but it also, you can see right into the very center of the log, you can see the rings of the original years of growth of the tree and the various colors and swirls that it takes on as you create different three-dimensional forms. And that's what I try to do. I try to let the wood evolve as I work on carving it. So this happens to be based on a kind of a human form, abstract from sort of the same period artistically as Cubism and so on. I have another piece in the next room, which is her sister, the angel. You can see it as soon as you walk in there, you can see the angel. And the same ideas about working with the wood apply there.
Thank you, Jerry. It seems like the sculptors got some of them got double lucky, like Sarah Porter, who will do next. She's also in the other exhibition.
Thank you, Benton. Thank you, Benton. Thank you, David. You know, I was a docent on duty today and I walked in the door and saw this, my sculpture, and I thought it was upside down. This has been sitting, it's not upside down. It's been sitting on my hearth for a year, and I've only seen it from one point of view. And sculpture is really meant to be seen 360 degrees or more. So it was really kind of exciting. I was thwarted as a high school graduate from pursuing a childhood dream of being an architect. I received a degree in sculpture, then teaching art. In my mid-30s, I went back to architecture school and moved to the Cape in 1981. It was a surprise to me. And I had my own architectural firm, which I think informs a lot of the work that I do. I never got to build anything, and now I get to build stuff, which I love. I love visualizing, designing, and making things. In this case, I carved an 18-inch cube of polystyrene, styrofoam. It is easy to work with and very messy, which I like. Once carved, I covered the form with fiberglass cloth, hydrocal plaster, and painted it. For the finish, I rummaged through my stuff using a soaker hose that I had dug up from my yard, trying to find its beginning and end. It kept tearing. That's the black. I used golf tees from my husband's stash, hardware, office supplies, rubber bands from lobster claws lost in the ocean. You too can find these, I was told, if you rummage through Coastal Studies dumpsters. Take a closer look and you'll see what else I used. I call this piece the castle. A castle is a stronghold symbolically representing to me strength, resilience, protection, and occasional vulnerability, sadness, loss, all of life's experience. Art making restores me.
The work is as complex and diverse as you are, Sarah. Madeline Lord.
I think earlier you saw me emote with two very old friends to see here together after a number of years of separation. And we gave each other the biggest hugs. And if there was one word for this, it was the hug created by the chrome parts of it that just hold the rest of it together. I adored John Chamberlain's work and never took the leap to the abstract in metal and welding until COVID hit me. And I had used up my pile of heads, chests, legs, arms, and God knows what was left. And I said, okay, here we go. It's time for abstractions. And the chrome led the way and the yellow pouring through it with his sort of vegetable colored friends. And I can't really say how happy this guy is to be in this room, because I think if sculptures and paintings talk to each other at night, they all have a lot to say. So how'd you get that red where you got it? I can't believe it. I mean, there's so many things because of a juror pulling it together where these works, you know, in the magical museum at night would have a grand old time, singing, dancing, resisting, whatever they're up to. I have a 10-foot giraffe in front of the Boston Federal Reserve and a dancer, Mr. Bojangles, and an angel in their cafeteria. I used to work there. And so this was a leap for me to just take on scraps that I picked up because I loved them and turn something dead into something dramatic. So.
We're hoping Madeline submits a work to our Cape Cod Open Sculpture Invitational, which is this year. And if there are any sculptors out there here or out in Zoom world, we would love to welcome an outdoor, and there are some indoor sculptures as well. So smaller indoor and large scale outdoor works that'll be all across this 22-acre campus. So you can find the link to that prospectus on our website. Why don't we just jump right over here? David Ebby. There he is.
I'm David Eby, and the actual number 6 doesn't really have any meaning to me. It's just a shape, a form. It's part of a series that I did, and I was debating which one I should enter in the show. And I was debating between this one and the number 7, and I was like 6, 7, 6, 7. And I went with this one, thank you. And I'll be here all week. And then, but really the name of this piece is called Arithmancy, and it's about imbuing meaning into a number. And people here have been talking about, well, when do I stop, with a piece? When is it finished? And for me, when I start making this, I keep working and working, and then all of a sudden I stop, I take a step back, and it's not, watercolor paper, it's not charcoal, it's something different, it's art. And that's when I know I'm done. It's, when it's not, it looks like art. So, but that's all I have. So thank you.
David almost hung this one upside down. Oh, well, welcome on Zoom, James Gianforti, Gianforti from Tabor City, North Carolina, Chaos Dragon. Beautiful, thank you. Robert Bravitt. There he is.
It's Brad Fett. Brad Fett.
Brad Fett.
Thank you. This is a great show. When I start a painting, I don't really have anything more than a vague notion what I might do. And that usually evaporates pretty quickly once I get started. I use oil paint. I often mix colors directly on the canvas. And that's a little risky. I don't always know what I'm going to get. I end up doing a lot of wet on wet, which also is a little risky, I believe. And I think everybody has experienced those things. Without that, it really doesn't come alive for me. I certainly didn't think about how it was going to look when it was finished. And I certainly didn't think I would be standing here trying to think of something to say about it. But the process takes anywhere from a few hours to quite a bit longer, usually quite a bit longer. And I'm never really convinced that it's entirely finished, as others have said. At some point, it just becomes a matter of deciding when to stop.
A poetic ending to your statement. Sharon Hayes. Actually, do you have something to say about Sharon's piece?
If you get a chance to come up and read the statement here, it's powerful. It talks about our world is turned upside down, is the most lasting sentence I've read. The colors, the composition all grabbed me, and this is one of our award winners as well. Powerful statement and expression through her art there.
Harwich, Mass. Okay, Graham Casano from Potomac, Michigan. Pontiac. You live there, okay. So you recognize the scene. Terry Schupbach Gordon from North Carolina, and Joy George. She was here, she's back. The jurying was done blind, so there are some times where an artist gets double representation, but it's done without the juror actually knowing.
Hi, Joy George again, and honored to be again from Harwich. This is a charcoal and pastel drawing, abstract figurative. I didn't have a fixed plan. sort of obviously, but my work, and I do want to say, since I know she's right in front of me, my work is greatly inspired by the love and direction of Laura Shabbat. And it has changed tremendously in the last several years due to her guidance and direction. And I just want to make sure that people are aware of her wonderful teaching. And if you have a chance to take her classes, please do if you're interested in figure work and any work, because she'll take you to a new level. That said, I like to let the figure kind of evolve freely through the line. I work a lot with the gesture. When I can find the gesture, I'm fascinated by my own work sometimes. And then layer in the mark making. The fragmentation of all of it, I think, becomes a form of release that kind of values more intuition and risk. Again, having the freedom to let the image find its own shape rather than determining it with detail and description. And since I am honored enough to have two pieces, I'm going to give a second word. And my word is woke, because I think if we don't embrace woke again, there will be no more freedom to create.
Claudia Doherty, Newton, Mass. Laurent Clark, Oswald Clark, Laurel Oswald Clark from Randolph, New Jersey. Basha Marianska from Flagler Beach, Florida. Alan Trudgeman is here. He's not too far away. Yarmouthport, Mass. Passage. Irina Moroz from Needham, Mass. Bernard Ray Jr. from Connecticut, North Canaan. Are you here? Oh, great.
Thank you. And thank you for the jurying and the opportunity to be here. This is great museum, and I'm honored to be among so many amazing fellow artists. My piece is part of a series that I started 2 years ago, and I've recently named it called Responding to Chaos, which I think we're all in right now. And it's all sorts of chaos. And I was looking at how artists of the past responded to chaos when I was into this drawings that I turned into paintings. And I came across a quote by John Kennedy in the 60s. I think it was 63. And he said, in its very essence, making art is political, but not to be used as a weapon, but be used as a means to understanding. And I think that's what we all do. And as artists, how do we respond to chaos? We make art. Yeah. So this is a piece of art that I made responding to the chaos in Gaza. It's called Gaza Genocide, and it depicts a family, a man, woman, and child huddled in a bloody environment, dark environment, trying to survive. And I think it extends into our life here in the States, that we're trying to survive something that's going on right now too. A little bit about my process in this case. They start with drawings, and then I bring them over to a surface. And I've tried something new here, and this is basically a pastel as a base on the board, and then over the top of it is put an acrylic glazing medium. And in doing that, it smears it. And some of my other pieces, they're more obvious how it smears. And I like that because I like the randomness and the intentionalness of things. I like to bring those together. Then I lay the image on top, which is the drawing where it all starts. And it starts very intuitively, the drawing. I don't know what I'm basically going to do when I start a drawing, but it turns into something. And like the others, I'll say something about how I know it's done. It tells me it's done. It says something back to me. I'm done. And I stop. But this is a series of now 32 paintings and growing. I would like to stop it tomorrow, as everybody would. And I will stop it when it's done. It's not done, unfortunately. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Zachary Fugano Teg here? Somerville, Mass. How about Natalie Timoshin from, okay. Hello.
So I actually asked ChatGPT to give me something to say today because I really have no idea what to say. My process is, it's a lot of taking away and plopping it back on and just playing. I do a lot of playing, I noticed, with my paintings, and I enjoy that. But basically, to me, when it comes out, it's magic. And that's my word, magic.
Jason Brian Fox. Here he comes. From Browns Mill, New Jersey. Did you come up just for the event?
Yes, I did. My word is gratitude. Gratitude for including me in this community of artists, and gratitude for the ability to have the opportunity to make art. I've only been showing publicly for a few years. I came to art through, I'm a Air Force veteran, and I served in the first Gulf War, and I had difficulty transitioning to civilian life and finding purpose, and art gave me that outlet because I never felt like my voice or my emotions or my feelings mattered to anybody. But in art, I could put my feelings there, and I would feel a sense of self-validation for that. And that's why I do it. I did this piece. It's a pastel on paper. It's called Fault Lines of Becoming. And I did this. I'm a student at the Art Students League of New York. I study abstraction under Peter Bonner. And I knew I was finished when Peter smiled at me in class. So I knew I was done there. And I subscribe to an artistic philosophy called motionism, where even that life is ephemeral in nature, and that we're in constant motion. And I'm trying to capture that motion. Even as we're standing still, we're still moving. As the planet's rotating, we're still in motion. And the techniques I used soft pastels and oil pastels. And I did a technique where I tried to balance the warm and cool colors to give it depth. And I did a technique where I call it flowering, where I scrape the pastel with an X-Acto knife onto the surface, and I press it in with glassine paper. And I try to put complementary colors like pinks on greens to give it more depth. And then it also draws from the spirit of Cloysonism, where I Cloisonnism's a post-impressionist movement where the artists would outline shapes with dark contours, but they would outline the complete shape, and I depart from that while fracturing the lines. So it's just to highlight the shapes that I see standing out in the motion of the piece, and that's pretty much my process. And so thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's the last bit. And we ended on something rich and meaningful, which is amazing. Thank you so much. Talk about freedom to create. And I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you.
I would just like to end with letting you know there is a flyer that has some programming that coincides with this exhibition, as well as the program for the exhibition, which has some of these artworks are for sale, and 60% of the proceeds goes back to the artists. So please feel free to support the artist community in that way. We have a presentation. It's by Provincetown-based artist Jay Critchley, titled "Democracy of the Land, the Cold Warmth." And he's a writer, an activist, and he'll give a visual performance with one of his artworks that he created that explores the breakdown and remapping of our political and cultural boundaries, the military buildup, authoritarianism and free speech, and the purging of environmental regulations. And that's on February 6th. So hope you can join us. Starts at 4 o'clock. Then we have on a presentation by art historian Sue Altman, Politics in Art from Ancient Times to the Present. Sue Altman will discuss works such as Roman propaganda sculpture, paintings celebrating royalty, abolitionist works, and the French and American revolutions, concluding with the 20th and 21st centuries with artworks commenting on racism, gay rights, feminism, and the Vietnam War. And that is March 5th, starting at 10:30 a.m. And then Richard Neal, I mentioned, is going to have a presentation titled "The Big Lie: Art at the Intersection of Art and Politics." He'll discuss the relationship between art and politics in his own art, as well as through the examples in our history. And that is March 13th, starting at 4 p.m. And lastly, Gail Gelbard has a presentation, "Creativity as a Voice for Social Justice." Dr. Gail Gelbard will discuss her new book and her visual art, exploring how art powerfully gives voice to issues of environmental destruction, oppression, war, and compassion. And that is April 24th, starting at 4 p.m. So there's a lot to take in addition to this exhibition, and I hope you will continue to join us. And don't forget to visit the museum shop. Miriam was behind the camera all night. I pulled her out of the shop, and she's the shop curator. So make sure you visit her also. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. The reception follows directly.